My to-be sister-in-law is driving me bonkers. Any advice is greatly appreciated. Me, 17F, and my boyfriend, 17M, have been together for little over 3 years, first getting together start of eighth grade year. We're both juniors in high school now. I have about five siblings, and he only has one little sister, which at the time of this post is 14F and a freshman in high school. In the beginning of our relationship, things were rocky between us, but me and his sister were really close. And she got a power trip when I would get upset with him on her behalf, and we would bond over that. About freshman year, me and him realized something in our relationship wasn't working out, so we both dove deep into communication and self improvement. Along this 6 month, 1 year journey, his grandparents on his mom's side found out we were dating and did not approve. So his mom made us break up, but we stayed together behind her back without any family, including his sister, knowing. Um, our relationship was only getting stronger by the day, with, of course, some slip ups here and there, but overall, everything was looking up. Sophomore year, my previously single mom found someone, and now by my junior year, we plan to move. This would be detrimental to our relationship as he cannot do long distance. So we go to our last measures, and he tells his mom we've been dating the entire time and asks if I can move in. He did it much smoother and nicer than I am describing, LOL. But after his mom has a small heart attack, she decided to do a 2 week trial, which went well. And then now I am moved in. I've been at their house for about 6 months now, still visiting my house every weekend as an agreement to my mom letting me stay with his family. At first, his sister was very upset. She's not allowed to have a boyfriend, but here's her big brother with a whole girl in the house. But me and her bond not over toxic manipulation tactics against my poor boyfriend, LOL, but over real stuff like makeup and her curly journey and that kind of thing. She is very clingy and over the top, but I deal with it for my boyfriend. And since I have five of my own siblings, I have plenty of patience to spare. When I say over the top, I mean she will get in my face and smack on her food and look up at me thinking she's cute and say, hi, hi, in a baby voice. She will physically throw herself on top of me and flop like a fish, even if I ask her to move. She will insist we're umming. In Vietnamese is hug. She used to have this habit that I unfortunately played into where she would stick out her index finger and go, fingy, as she's asking me to hold her finger. That's the only one I begin denying. Point is, she is completely over the top. She does this to her poor mother as well. My boyfriend's family is Vietnamese. I come from a humble household. You say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. Always I say thank you and excuse me. You never expect anything and other basic manners. I assumed his house ran the same way. I assumed so wrong. His sister will physically scream at her mother if her laundry is not done. I've witnessed it firsthand. Mom, did you do my sheets while I was at school? Oh, sorry, I forgot, honey. You said you'd wash my sheets. I was busy. Sorry, ill. Wash them tomorrow. Bye. I told you I was busy. Sorry. Great. Now I can't lay on my bed because I have dirty clothes on from school and you forgot to wash my sheets. Thanks. A lot. Mom. She complains she has nothing to eat and will starve. She's 5'2" and 220 pounds. She won't starve. I overheard her yell at her mom that she was putting her clothes in the wrong dresser while her mom was putting her clothes away. Like, that is insane to me. She is a crazy level of spoiled. And since I mentioned her weight, she has called me 5'1", 1120 lops fat. She's said I look pregnant and she has called me piggy to my face. Insane. One time she was upset and started ranting about how her family hates her and listed the worst events of her childhood, some of which were being hit one time. Yes, once. Chasing her brother around with a broomstick, getting yelled at all the time, and having her aunties bitch at her. When I asked her if she ever seen her parents on drugs, no. Has she ever seen them drunk? No. Has she ever has to worry about whether or not her family could afford their next meal? No. What about hand-me-downs? No. One more example of her extreme spoiledness is her mom works as a caregiver. These sweet older ladies will give her food they have from the food bank that they don't want. And some of it happens to be good food like Jello or food that she likes, like orange juice. Her mom brought home this food once and she was flabbergasted. Where'd you get the money for all this food, Mom? People at work gave it to me from the food bank. She then went on to complain about how they aren't poor and how that's disgusting and she won't eat donation food. A day later, upon seeing me open one of the chocolate jello pudding things and eating it, she was appalled, complete disbelief I would ever eat anything like that. And if you're curious, they aren't rich. They live in a 3-bedroom house. His dad's dead's in the living room. Mom and dad sleep separate because his mom has a CPAP and it keeps his dad up if they're in the same room. But it's an overall okay neighborhood. I would comfortably say lower middle class, upper lower class. Not ghetto, but right on that edge. That's my boyfriend dropped out within a month of our junior year to focus on work. His career is set up and he's more than happy with what he does. I want to support him in any way possible, so I begun working with him. He works from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., 12 a.m. as a head chef in a small restaurant his family owns. From 10 to 10:30, his aunties help run it, but from 9:12 a.m., I am the only server, and he is the only cook. This is so true. I think the 10 when I was turning 12, I only understood like my partner is the person that keeps you while I work 3-hour days to support him while also balancing my running start, so high school and college classes. He works crazy hours for 6 days a week. His one day off he wants to spend as stress-free as possible. His sister has a long NNG track record of bitching, as you can probably tell. He gave her multiple chances before he kind of weaned off hanging out with her on his one day off. Since I've moved in and she sees us being happy, she at one point she cried to her parents about how my boyfriend opens her door and not mine, and how on his birthday we went out to one of those fancy steakhouses where they bring you large things of meat and cut you off slices. Did I mention on his birthday? And we did. She won't accept leftover food. She gets upset when we bring her leftovers. But if we bring her home nothing, she gets even more upset, saying we didn't think about her. We have to bring her home a fresh meal if she knows we go out. Forcing it takes away the thought behind it completely. Anyways, she began to get jealous of our relationship and complains about me because of it. I talked to her about it. Finally, the truth comes out. She wants to spend time with her brother. I tell her first, I am not the enemy, and I want her and her brother to spend time together, and I know she can. If and only if she calms down on the bitching. I told her if she proves she's at least trying, we will bring her out more. Then when it stops and he's comfortable hanging out with her one-on-one again, they can do so. And I have zero problem giving up me and my boyfriend's one day off so he can spend it with his sister. But did she stop? No. The literal next week after we had this conversation, she asked him to take her to IKEA to get a desk. But this day in particular, we were supposed to drive downtown to visit our grandparents, both his and mine, and we just didn't really have time if we wanted to be punctual. We kindly explained this to her, and she immediately called her mom. This is right after Thanksgiving, BTW, and complained that she's motivated today of all days and needs to rearrange her room in time for Christmas because she's going to get new shelving for Christmas and needs to buy and put in a desk so she knows where the shelf can go. Even after my boyfriend explains that we really don't have time, his mom persists, and he respects his mom and doesn't want to cause his mom stress. So after he picks me up from my 10:30 AUM class, we go straight to his house. About 11 o'clock, we get there, and immediately she starts screaming her ass off and complaining. And I try and reason with her since we did just have that talk about a week ago after all, and it didn't matter. She slammed doors. She kicked the center console of my boyfriend's car. She complained he was 30 minutes late, but he couldn't have told her he was picking her up at 10:30 because he knew my class got out at that time. After all of that, we didn't even get a thank you. And so we repaired, obviously, but my boyfriend flat out refused to take her places because she refuses to calm down on every or any occasion. Her jealousy begins to skyrocket, and now she's thinks her and her brother aren't hanging out because I'm in the way. Now that the backstory is out of the way, here's where the meat of the story comes in. Recently, we all go snowboarding with her cousin who knows a lot about snowboarding and gave us quick lessons. My boyfriend tends to be independent, but I am very much codependent and need a buddy to calm my anxiety, lol. So we all agreed my boyfriend could go up and down as much as he likes while he figures it out without waiting for me. And me and his sister would be learning buddies. On the drive there, his two cousins drove and sat front seat. I volunteered middle, and on the way there, things were fine. She was super stoked for snowboarding. She bought all her own gear and board and everything, and I was excited for her. I'm a board sport person. I paddle boards, surfboard, boogie board, bodyboard. I skateboard and longboard. So it was a matter of time till I figured out snowboarding. I learned how to stand up. My learning curve began. And like with every other board, I've learned you fall, take advice, and get up and try again. Since me and a sister were buddies, I did my best to give her advice as well as his cousin did. When the better knowing cousin would give advice like try and lean back more or learn to heel stop or try falling on your butt, she would become a sore loser and make excuses and blatantly ignore the advice. I would do my best to be encouraging. Like I would go down first and tell her when I came back on the magic carpet what I learned. Or I would say something uplifting like, I killed that. And I would wait for her to go. I would say things like, woo, that was a good one. Now your turn. And I would get attitude back like, I'm putting my straps on in return. So I'd go and come back up and encourage her to go again. And same thing, you go first, it gives me courage. So I'd go, then she'd go finally and come back up. And then his cousin would give advice for her not to take. At one point of this cycle, she asked us to record her so she could see what she was doing wrong. Since she's a 14-year-old girl, I made a joke saying, we're giving you live advice. No need to post your fails. We'll record when you're better. So we went through and she posted a few things that weren't working for her. And like she talked about how, and also I just don't want to drop anyone's phone on the snow. I wasn't calling her bad or anything, but I knew she was going to clip a part where she was doing good and post it and then probably stop trying. I wanted her to get it down. At this point, she couldn't get down the bunny hill without falling on her stomach. And she just refused advice. So there was a lot of getting better she needed to do. Anyways, on all of our last trip down the bunny hill, I point out the easiest path that I found on my most recent board down. It has the least hills and bumps, so probably the easiest to ride considering I've learned to heel stop and almost do a 180 by now, and she still can't figure out how not to belly flop into the snow. I tell her my findings in hope she can get one good run. Unfortunately, this was met with, obviously I fucking know that. So I go down and wait for them. On the car ride back, all of a sudden, I was squishing her. Did she tell me this? Of course not. She scoots to the door as far as possible. I get the hint, and I scoot toward my boyfriend. I even put one leg over his and ask the driver if I can put one foot on the center console, trying to make as much room as possible. I put my elbows in my lap, leaving my ribs exposed. Little did I know this was my biggest mistake. Every time the car would turn and I was pushed towards her because of gravity, she would jab her elbows into my ribs in skinny. That shit hurts. And every time the car would veer the other way, so she was leaning on me, her elbow right into my hips. As I've mentioned, I have not 3, not 4, but 5 siblings. I promise I can tell the difference between an accidental readjusting elbow and an elbow that gets shoved further into my ribs the further the turn goes. Even when we weren't turning, her elbow still had pressure in my ribs. I'm much taller than her. I promise you, if her shoulder was dropped, her elbow wouldn't be anywhere near my ribs. I stayed quiet at the end of the ride. Before we get out, she turns to me and asks, I think I was elbowing you. Are good? I just say yes and move on because I don't start arguments in front of anyone who is an immediate family if not necessary. The next day, I am bruised. I may have fair skin, but I do not bruise easy. After I check this bruise, I decide we should talk about it because I don't think that's okay. I was looking for her to take accountability. She elbowed me on purpose. I didn't even want an apology, just I was upset last night. My bad. I was tweaking. Um, would have beyond satisfied me. I walk into the dining room where she's eating unaware. Her mom is around the corner in the kitchen. I pull up my shirt and show her my bruises. Her name. Look, you elbowed me a lot last night in the car. I literally asked you if you were okay and you said yes. Like, it's obvious that not. Her mom walks around the corner and looks at my bruise and asks if her daughter did this. Mistakenly, I think she's going to stand up for me. So, of course, I say yes because that's the truth. Mom just sits next to her silently as I tell her, listen, you hurt me. And okay, how is that my fault? I was literally half the fuck asleep. What do you expect me to do? I don't appreciate you lying to me like this, man. I just want the truth. Okay, but I'm literally not lying. And okay, what you want me to say, I was asleep. And I literally asked you if you were okay. And you said yes. So, like, walked away saying I just wanted accountability. And soon after, she makes everything about her. She begins complaining we weren't helping her while we were snowboarding and how everyone left her and how she kept falling and it hurt so bad, Mom. And we made her look stupid when she asked for a video when we were all trying to give her in-person tips and help. Soon escalated to my boyfriend's name more than me, Mom. It's not right in terms of attached. Turn volume up because they were in a different room with her door closed. Anyways, I texted her on Christmas, 2 days after said event, and 2 days of her ignoring me. And she left me on delivery. Her read receipts are off, and I know she's seen my message again. So I text her again a few days later. Again, nothing. Today is Sunday. My boyfriend wants to go to church for the first time in a long time. And she comes with, she's in a good mood. And we went to the gym after, with her still trying to ignore me, but slowly weaving into conversations. We got food before my boyfriend was off to work. And while we were eating, I turned to her and said, I'll give you 3 options. 1, we text about it. 2, we talk about it. Or 3, you take accountability and we move on. Um, so, um, and then it's about going out of your comfort zone. It's about what you normally eat. Also, what you don't. I said those exact words, and she storms off saying she has to take a shit, then mumbles Uber. Her breath. Text, but it's not even that deep, but whatever. So finally, she texts me. Not good. She immediately tries to play victim and guilt trip me. I'll let the texts speak from themselves. Attached. Screenshots are in order of this story. When I said, sorry I ruined your breakfast, I was referring to the day I confronted her while screaming. She mentioned I ruined her breakfast, so I apologized. I did nothing in the morning for her to go to work angry. Literally nothing. I'm not leaving anything out. What I said was word for word. And that was the end of our interaction for the day. I don't know what upset her so much, and I don't know how it's my fault somehow. The day she cried wolf about me being the devil, pretty much. I tried to talk to her mom. She was making up lies, and I wanted to make sure if his sister doesn't like me, fine, but his mom's opinion means a lot to me. So I wanted to set bases straight. She thankfully knew her daughter was lying, and it seems thankfully her son told her my story and everything before her daughter's lies filled her head. But when I talked to her mom, she asked for my help, saying, I need to be the leader since I'm more mature, and she wants her daughter to have the right guidance. That's the main reason I tried to solve our problem with a three-step method. I would try to solve it normally without the influence of her mom, but I just took an approach that her mom asked me to instead. I did get petty at the end with the happy face, but I am so exhausted of her walking all over me all the time. I'm a people pleaser and really need some advice. Reddit, please help me. What do I do? Story 2, did I miss my chance with him? In my early 20s, I dated a someone very toxic and it lasted 5 years. A month after ending things with my ex, I met an incredible guy during a volunteer meeting in my city. We instantly clicked and he asked me out. He was super into me. We went on a couple dates in the beginning of the year, but I quickly realized that I wasn't ready. Had just gotten out of a toxic long-term relationship, and although he is perfect on paper, I just didn't have the emotional capacity to continue seeing him. I was extremely depressed. And now, this is where I went wrong. Instead of communicating this with him, I ghosted him for about 2 weeks before I finally texted him, letting him know that I'm going through some things personally and I won't be able to continue seeing him. He was hurt, but he understood. A few months went by and I did run into him every now and then at those meetings, but I still didn't feel like I was ready. We never talked about our falling out in person. Now it's been a year since we've met. I've been working on myself and prioritizing my healing journey. We've become good friends over the past year, and we see each other almost weekly as a result of the volunteer work we do. Spending more time with him made me realize he is one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and I've started noticing that I am growing attracted to him. I decided to talk to him about how we left things off because I was feeling guilty about how I treated him when we first met. I apologized and told him it wasn't anything he had done. I explained what was going through my head at the time and told him I think he's a great guy. Um, he was super nice, said I didn't need to apologize, and that he also thinks I'm an amazing girl. He said he was upset at first when he thought I ghosted him, but then he understood when I texted him saying, I'm just not ready. I was hoping this conversation would lead to us retrying, so I asked if he was seeing someone. He hesitated and said yes, but emphasized that it wasn't serious, slash, he's taking things slowly. It almost seemed like he didn't want to completely shut the door on us. I didn't ask any further questions about his situationship. He then asked if I was ready now for a relationship, and I said yes. I told him I needed this year to heal and that I'm not the kind of person who can jump from one relationship to the other. At the end, we exchanged an intimate look. We hugged and told each other that we're both glad we've met one another. Again, I was hoping this conversation would reignite the spark and send him a message that I'd want to go out with him again. It's been about 2 months since that conversation took place, and we've gotten a lot closer as friends. And when we're in a group setting, he seems to always gravitate towards me, but he hasn't made any moves that would make me think he wants more. Now I feel a ton of regret because I feel like I messed up and lost a great guy. I don't really know how to navigate this without seeming desperate or ruining the dynamic. I already initiated the previous conversation and apologized for my lack of communication when we first met. I really, really like him. What should I do? Do you think I still have a chance? TLDR. Met someone a year ago and we instantly clicked. He asked me out on a few dates, but I quickly realized that I wasn't ready to start seeing anyone as I had just ended a toxic long-term relationship a month prior. I could have done a better job communicating this with him, and I apologized for that. He was understanding. Um, we've become good friends over the last year, and he often goes out of his way to do nice things for me. I recently talked to him about us and admitted that am now ready for a relationship. My feelings for him are growing and I really want to try again, but am not sure if I've missed my chance. What should I do? Story 3. Am I overreacting to my husband's bromance? My husband, 42, and I married 2 months ago and dated for 3 years before getting married. My husband is from a different country, and for our wedding, his childhood best friend served as his best man, which was a great honor for us and a sacrifice for the best friend since he is married and with a child. For the additional context of my husband's friendship with his best friend, when at home, when my husband wakes up, the first thing he does is text his best friend. Sometimes, if he cannot sleep in the middle of the night, he will read through their old texts. Before bed, he is the last person he will text, or he will reread old messages between them until he falls asleep. Truthfully, I have felt jealous about their level of communication. However, I haven't said anything to my husband about this, as I understand they are close friends, and being that they live in separate countries, they aren't able to hang out as I would with my friends. For our honeymoon, we planned a 9-day trip abroad. The initial leg of the journey to get to our first destination was an 8-hour flight, 5-hour layover, and 3-hour train ride. During this time, my husband and his best friend were in consistent communication, as they normally are. And on the flight, my husband spent most of the flight watching movies and This was when I started to become uncomfortable with the idea of this behavior continuing for our honeymoon, as I felt our honeymoon should be a time for us to connect. However, during our travels to our destination, I did not say anything about my discomfort, as it was a long journey and we weren't talking the entire time. Upon reaching our destination, we checked into the hotel and I noticed the communication continued. At this point, I said to my husband that it would be so great to spend these 9 days together, and I would really appreciate it if he did not talk to his best friend during our honeymoon, as this should be our time, and I feel like they talk a lot while at home, so it would be great if they could give it a rest for this time period. My husband was a bit apprehensive when I said this, and I explained that the level of frequency of their communication made me uncomfortable at home. Still, I did not say anything because I understood they were friends, but I reiterated during this time I would appreciate it if they did not talk. My husband agreed to give it a rest for the honeymoon, and I said thank you. I told him again that I noticed they were still texting and asked, "Is it that hard for you not to text each other?" He said no, that it was okay, that he would stop texting and that he apologized. The remainder of the day and the third day were uneventful. On the fourth day, I was on WhatsApp when my husband went to the bathroom and noticed he was active on WhatsApp while he was in the bathroom. My husband only communicates with this friend via WhatsApp, and this is really the only person he consistently communicates with on this app. And therefore, throughout the remainder of the trip, I will admit I would consistently check WhatsApp and see he was online almost every time we were not physically together or when he went to the bathroom. Strangely enough, he started going to the bathroom about every 20, 30 minutes when we were out, to the point that I suggested he may want to schedule a doctor's appointment when he returned because it did not seem normal. It initially didn't occur to me that he was frequently going to the bathroom to text his friend. On the final day of our trip, my husband gestured for sex and I rebuffed him. I simply said, "I don't want to have sex with someone who is telling me one thing but doing another behind my back. It doesn't make me feel loved or respected." He questioned this, and I said, "I know you have been texting your best friend this entire trip after I asked you not to." He admitted it and said, "I only did it when you were not around." This infuriated me because that was precisely my point. Still, somehow, he thought that was a good defense. He continued to say, "You have spoken with your friends, so I don't see the big deal. My maid of honor got engaged while we were away, and I called and spoke with her for about 20 minutes to congratulate her, and we were texting here and there during our trip, but not more than maybe 30, 40 messages were exchanged." He continued to say, "He has also been texting with his mom and sister. Is that okay?" And I said, "Of course. I would never want you to not communicate with family or other friends for that matter. I specifically asked you not to speak with your best friend because you talk all the time when we are home." He said, "Fine, I'll stop talking to him so much when we are home and reel it back on our friendship." I told him, "No, that's not what I wanted." I just wanted him not to sneak around texting him during our honeymoon, and I found it strange that it was so hard for them not to communicate for a little over a week. After this, we ended up watching a movie and falling asleep. We did not have sex. And I don't feel like having sex with him since this occurred. Um, am I overreacting to my husband's relationship with his best friend? TLDR, my husband and his male best friend text a lot, and for our honeymoon, I asked hubby not to text him. He did the entire trip. Am I overreacting?